Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Today we are going to discuss the situation that has been escalating in the Middle East. Firstly, that aggression that was unleashed by Israel on the innocent people in Gaza, and now the expansion of this aggression towards Lebanon. According to the Health Ministry of Gaza, so far since 7th of October 2023, owing to this particular aggression by Israel occupation forces, 42,847 people have been killed and over 100,000 people are injured. Specifically talking about the death toll in Lebanon because of the escalation and of the aggression of Israeli forces there, the death toll has surpassed 2,500. We've also seen a lot of condemnation happening regarding this particular aggression of Israel by various world leaders. A lot of efforts have been made in order to go for a ceasefire, but it still seems to be a wishful thinking because the kind of statements we have seen on the part of the Israeli authorities, it shows that this particular conflict will further linger on. Specifically talking about South Africa, its president has urged the international community to enforce ICJ's ruling over funding Israel's Gaza war. Also, in another major development, France's President Emmanuel Macron has pledged 100 million euros to support Lebanon. He has also condemned Israeli aggression in Lebanon and also called for a ceasefire. These recently we saw the back-to-back assassinations on the part of the Israeli regime of some of the top leaders of the resistance groups both in Gaza as well as in Lebanon, and the kind of escalation of tensions between Iran and Israel. Why the international community has been unable to stop Israel from its aggression since 7th of October last year. We'll be delving deeper into what could be further implications of this brutality on the part of Israeli occupation forces. And for that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Air Marshal retired Saeed Mohammed Khan, who is joining us in the studio. Mr. Khan, thank you very much for your time. And we'll be resuming the discussion, but I'll have to go for a quick short break. After that particular break, we'll resume the discussion from here. Welcome back to Views on News. In today's program, we are discussing the situation that is worsening with every single passing day in the Middle East, owing to the brutality and the aggression that has been unleashed by Israel on the innocent people in Gaza since 7th of October 2023, and also expansion of it towards Lebanon. To discuss various aspects of it, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Mr. Air Marshal retired Saeed Mohammed Khan. Mr. Khan, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. 7th of October 2023. Most recently, the world observed that particular date, the 7th October of 2024. 1 year lapsed, but the international community has been unable to stop Israel. A number of developments happened as far as the United Nations Security Council is concerned, United Nations General Assembly is concerned, International Court of Justice is concerned. Why the collective wisdom or the collective will of the world couldn't stop one single country from stopping its aggression?
In two words, weakness of the Islamic countries and no sincere desire by the rest of the world to stop the conflict. The history of conflict between Jews and Palestinians in the modern times can be easily distributed into two distinct phases. One is from 1947 to 1967, and then from 1967 to this place. Since 2006, when Israel attacked Lebanon and there was a major conflict between Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces, for the first time, a renegade force which was not accepted by the world powers was able to stop the onslaught of the Israeli forces. And that created a lot of euphoria and liking for Hamas in the Arab world. Since then, Israel was looking for reasons where they could again reinstate their, slogan of invincibility and convince the Arab world that Israel cannot be defeated in any military conflict. I look at 7th October 2023 as, a reason given to them. Unfortunately, of the 20 major countries of the world, the top 10 countries, they actually don't accept Palestine as a state, and they have serious reservations on their non-member status at the United Nations Security Council too. Any conflict in this last 1 year, any resolution that has come up by the world has actually been vetoed by the superpowers. Recently,
the one superpower,
USA, Britain, France, and these are the countries that stand totally behind Israel.
There has been a development.
Yes, the recent development which you are mentioning too is a welcome development in my eyes.
We'll go to that particular aspect of it. So, specifically talking about the US, we've seen since 7th of October there was a relentless support expressed by the US authorities, the Biden administration, as far as the defense of Israel is concerned. What about that illegal occupation that has been going on?
It is from which side of the fence do you look at the grass? Right, from their point of view, with the Jews controlling nearly everything important in USA, they don't look at Israeli aggression as something illegal or something. They stand as a state. They stand fully behind whatever Israel is doing, and they are supporting it militarily, politically, diplomatically, at all levels. They are supporting that thing. Today, at this time, expecting that there would be a major change in the US policy because of the uproar that is happening in all the capitals of the world, I don't see any change before the beginning of the next year because of their elections, because the Jewish vote in America counts a lot for who will be the next president. So I think both Kamala Harris and Trump will play kudos to the Jews, and the situation will primarily remain the same.
In the United States of America, massive demonstrations had been happening in various universities all across in the United States of America. I mean, that uproar had been happening. It was widespread, and people have been condemning Israeli aggression on the people in Gaza. So after that, the Biden administration at the helm during this entire saga, do you think, is it going to serve its purpose when it goes into election with this kind of track record that yes, on one side it was supporting Israel and saying that Israel had the right to self-defense. On the other side, there was shuttle diplomacy that we saw on the part of the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken. But those ceasefire talks haven't resulted in any positive outcome so far.
I personally believe that if US really desires the war to come to an end, it will come to an end in less than a week, because they are the main backers of Israel. Unfortunately, in my point of view, the way I look at it, they believe in the righteousness of the whatever stance Israel has taken. So as a state, they are fully backing it up. Till the time they pull back their support, and the Britishers pull back their support, and the French pull back their support, this nothing major is going to happen either at the United Nations level or at any other level.
So what's the weight and the importance of that public opinion, that uproar that was widespread among the masses over there, regardless of their association with any certain specific religion within the United States of America?
I personally feel, it's very disheartening to say it, but I personally feel nothing.
So any sort of an impact on the outcome of the elections?
It has the positive impact is that people have started seeing Israel in its true light. There was a image of, Hezbollah and Hamas being terrorist organizations and Israel fighting against them. But today everyone knows that it's the other way around. It is the Israelis who are actually the the ones who are flouting every human rights law in the world, and the others are actually doing self-defense, right? So the biggest advantage of all this public opinion that has happened all over the universities to which you are referring to has actually changed the perception about Israel. Yes, things will change now because slowly and gradually this opinion will start to change the mindsets of the voters in those countries, and those voters, if they become united and powerful, they will be able to change the policies of their governments. But to expect that something will happen in the next 1 or 2 or 3 months.
Do you expect anything, any substantial thing happening, any substantial change happening after the elections?
I think so, yes.
And when a new administration takes in?
When the new administration takes in, and how the Arab and the Muslim vote goes over there, is voted, and whether the one supported by them comes into power in America, it will definitely make a change.
If we try to compare Kamala Harris in comparison to former President Donald Trump, so if Kamala Harris wins, do you think the continuity of this particular policy of Biden administration vis-a-vis the situation in the Middle East?
I think
or so. A bit of shift?
There is always a shift with the new person in office. There is always a shift. Okay. And she being a lady, she is expected to be more empathetic towards, human loss. The loss that has taken place in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and God forbid if the war expands to Iran, then it's going to be phenomenal. And already people are quoting figures, although I read that you had said 42,000, but I was reading an article that already more than 70,000 deaths have only taken place in Gaza and Palestine. And if we count in the deaths of Lebanon as well as Yemen, we are talking of something like above 200,000. No, this is too big a number. Even in the Second World War, we did not have so many losses. The world has started talking of Israel as a country that is supporting apartheid. This is, in my view, a killing of a type of people, and which cannot be accepted at all. They are now going for total annihilation of the Palestinian people. Right. When you go, and this cannot be allowed, because sooner or later this thing is going to reverse, and so like what happened in the Second World War, then the people will start taking out the people from the other side, and when that happens, the world will go into another frenzy of murders, which is not acceptable at all for a peaceful world. So I think, in my opinion, the world leaders like America, England, and other European countries, they must put their foot down now and tell Israel in no less than strong terms that it is now time to, they have taken their revenge of 7th October, and it is now time to pull back.
Right. For now, we are honored to be joined by two other participants. Dr. Shazia Anwer, Cheema, expert in international relations. Dr. Shazia, thank you very much for your time. And also, Mr. Dr. Sabir Abu Maryam, Secretary General, Palestine Foundation, Pakistan. Dr. Abu Maryam, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Now, Dr. Shazia, it's been over a year now. Why do you think the international community, especially when we talk about the United Nations Security Council, the mandate of which is to ensure international peace and security as per the Charter of the United Nations, has been unable to stop Israel from going ahead with its brutality on the innocent people in Gaza, and also not only that, but also expansion towards Lebanon?
When we talk about international community, we have to keep in mind that international community is not like these 7 countries, because these countries, they are technically overpowering all the media, social media, parallel media. So we think that this is the international community and they are powerful and they are not letting the things, go beyond their way. But the international community, which is present in the BRICS summit, which is currently happening in Kazan, Russia, they are all condemning this genocide. They are all voicing their opinion, and in a very firm way they are saying that this cannot happen. And maybe these are the events which are provoking us, which are triggering us to create a new world order, because the previous world order is not even capable of stopping an active genocide. So that's the problem, because the international community, but we and our viewers think the international community is practically the 7 countries, and their personal interests are involved in this situation. And Israel is their vassal state or vice versa. We don't know. This can be argued, but they do not want to
Okay,
stop
what I
this war.
understand from
They
your
want
take,
to.
Dr. Shazia, is that there are two parallel international communities at play at the moment. Am I correct in
Of course, there
understanding
is,
you?
and of course, that's what I meant. And the parallel community, one is the 7 countries, the powerful countries, so-called powerful countries, and other rest of the world is meeting in BRICS summit, and they are reiterating, they are voicing their opinion, they are
Your
saying
point is
in
well
the
taken. I
progress.
understand your point very well. So we'll talk about this, what is happening in Kazan, Russia. There's been a statement by South African president regarding, firstly, has urged the world community, of course, to help enforce the ICJ ruling. Also, is talked about the reforms at the United Nations Security Council. Now, taking the second point, the reforms at the United Nations Security Council, you already mentioned a new world order is required because the old world order wasn't able to stop such type of genocide from going ahead. Now, when we talk about the United Nations as the world organization, so 193 countries represent themselves within that organization. So there is a mandate of the United Nations Security Council to ensure international peace and security. So keeping international community, the term, that particular term, for a second aside, why the UNSC hasn't been able to, stop Israel from its aggression?
Again, Tehami, the answer is the same. The United Nations is cursed with the veto power. Whenever there is a ceasefire resolution being passed, being presented in the General Assembly, always US vetoed it. So this curse of veto has to be lifted, and there has to be a parallel organization, or not parallel, but there has to be something, some watchdog, some other stakeholders must have been, somewhere where they can work on consensus, not on the veto basis. And
What could be
with
the
the same,
possibility? What could
and,
be
and
the possibility when it comes to, you termed that it's the veto that is the curse, when it comes to the effectiveness of the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, the working of it? I'll come back to you. What could be possibly the mechanism in order to reform that, as Cyril Ramaphosa has called for it? We have also seen in the recent past many of other world leaders calling for that reform of the United Nations Security Council. Dr. Sabir Abu Maryam, how do you think this reform could happen at the United Nations Security Council that is mandated enough to stop such type of aggression, or you would like to say genocide, from going ahead from such an aggressor state that is Israel?
Yes, of course. The veto power is the main hurdle and the problem in the UNSC, because all the time when we saw the resolutions regarding the occupied Palestine and especially for Kashmir, so we saw that especially the American government and the representative of American government always use the veto power and condemn the resolution, and the resolution went to the wind. So that is why I think not only the world order has been failed, but the old world order, unipolar system, has been crumbling and finished now after BRICS. The BRICS came as a successful option before the world, because the global majority now we should change the terminologies. There is no international community. Where is international community? More than 50,000 innocent people in Palestine have been martyred, genocide, ethnic cleansing. But this so-called international community keeping the criminal silence. So I think there is no any international community. But yes, we used to say a global majority, which exists in the BRICS, and yes, this can change in the economical field and also the political arena. So there is a big problem in the United Nations Security Council is the veto power, and American government is using this power against innocent people, against the third world countries, to keep them under their control and to control their politics, to control their everything.
Okay, so you already talked of BRICS. Do you think there is a viable solution the members of the BRICS or the associated countries could actually think of? Because this particular aggression has been lingering on. It's more than 1 year now, and it is further expanding into the region.
I think in this current arena, where we are witnessing the genocide in Palestine, in the genocide especially in Lebanon, yes, the BRICS can make some changes, can make some pressure. But I think in BRICS, we need also some additions, some changes, because when we talk about the global majority, like a global south, this is the main topic. This is the main theme. So we should invite all others. And I think Putin is doing this, doing according this, and he tried to invite some other partners to come in the BRICS and to make this effective. Yes, we need some system to contest the old biased system, which is totally has been failed, which is totally not only has been failed, but supporting the genocide. Who is supporting genocide in Palestine? This is the American government, who is giving billions of dollars of the military weapons and artillery. This is the American government. We know everything. So we should need any possible way. BRICS, maybe something else. We should go through this, and we should change, especially the global economy system, from dollar to some other currencies. And many countries, they are talking about, and they are thinking about to convert their economical system. And I think it would be a positive change.
Right. Dr. Abu Maryam, now let me quote a statement by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. As the United Nations General Assembly has now resolved, the countries of the world have a responsibility to promote the realization of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Now, at this particular high-level forum, BRICS, the 16th summit is underway. Now, he's urging the world community to help enforce the ICJ ruling. Of course, this fact has been established by the International Court of Justice that it's the genocide which is being perpetrated by the Israeli regime against the innocent people in Gaza. What is required in order to enforce that particular ruling of the ICJ? When you talk of BRICS, South Africa happens to be one of the key members of BRICS. Now, its president is also urging the world community to help enforce that ICJ ruling. What is required for that?
Yes,
the
statement by the South African president is to appealing to the all countries of the world, especially those are victims of the so-called superpowers or the so-called world order previously. So I think the step taken by the South African government in the ICJ, it was a good step. But unfortunately, once again, my dear brother, I say that the ICJ only an organization. The ICJ doesn't have any power, doesn't have any implementation power to how to implement the decision. Who will be enforced its decision? There is no any implementation power or rule in the international laws. This is the main fault. So I think morally, it is good action as they went to in the ICJ to put the pressure as a morally. But unfortunately, once again, the Zionist illegitimate regime is right. It doesn't care. even humanity. So how we can hopeful they will care for the laws and they will care for the international organization, because the Zionist regime do know that the American government pushing back them, and they know that until the American government and their money and their weapon and their political support, they know very well no one can pick them in the criminal court.
Right, Dr. Abu Maryam. Now, the presidential elections in the United States of America are just around the corner. Just less than 2 weeks are left in those presidential elections. Do you see any sort of a change in the situation in the Middle East after the elections are held and a new administration takes the hold? Do you see any difference if we compare the Democrats and the Republicans? Is there going to be a change in the policy?
Well, I think no, because during the election campaign, we witnessed that both of the candidates, both of the presidential candidates, categorically stated that they are standing with Israel. But yes, we are hopeful that if the Donald Trump will come, I think the American people and the American government will be in trouble, because maybe Trump can make many problems for the American people and the government. So if he will come, I think American people should think about him and do some good decision through the vote. If he will come, I think the bad situation will be seen.
Okay, Dr. Abu Maryam, there is another development. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged 100 million euros to support Lebanon. He has also condemned Israeli aggression on Lebanon and has called for a ceasefire. Do you see some Western countries diverging from that very stated line when it comes to Israel's self-defense, particularly in this case of France?
Yes, first I would like to say that this is a good step if he has announced the aid toward the Beirut, Lebanon. But we should know about the history that Lebanon, they have their interest in the Lebanon. They have their economical interest in the Lebanon. So that is why they are supporting. Why they were keeping silence since last 7th of October? Why they were keeping since 1948? This is the question. In Lebanon, because many companies, many things has been hit by the Zionist regime after the statement of the Macron, when he stated that the military support and the artillery support must be stopped towards Israel. Then they start the targeting to the French companies and the French assets in the Beirut. So now the Macron is giving the support. Yes, this is the one side. Yes, good step. If he is giving the financial support to the poor people, the needful people in Lebanon, yes, right, we can appreciate. But the question mark is still there. Why they were keeping silence towards the Palestinian issue? That genocide is still ongoing.
Palestine Foundation, Pakistan. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. On the phone line, we are honored to be joined by another participant, Mr. Faheem Al-Hamid, Arab journalist. Mr. Al-Hamid, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Let me quote one important statement by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Peace and security across the world requires the collective will of the community of the nations. It requires a United Nations Security Council that is representative and inclusive, unquote. What would it take, as per your understanding, to make a United Nations Security Council more representative and inclusive, going towards the reforms so that the genocide which is being perpetrated by Israel could be stopped?
Well, thank you very much, brother, and salamu alaikum to you and to your guests. In fact, this is a question that keeps on being addressed by journalists, by anchor persons since the last 30 years. And there would be no answer for that, because the United Nations is under the hegemony of the United States and the superpowers. So as long as, this hegemony and this veto power, lies is only with a certain country, so there won't be any concrete solution to this region problem. So the United Nations, and I'm saying this, and I'm keeping what I'm saying for the last 3 decades. It's not new. The United Nations needs to be reconstructed. The United Nations has to be revamped, and United Nations has to be, more impartial. This is briefly for a very big question. I'm giving you a very short answer.
So, do you think there could be what could be a possible mechanism in order to, who will take the lead in order to make it more representative and inclusive? Who will take the lead to go ahead with those reforms at the United Nations
No,
Security Council?
with regards to United Nations, it is the hopeless case. As long as there is, if you are speaking from within United Nations, this is the hopeless case. As long as there is a certain country who has a veto power. But the question is why we don't, the Arab and Muslim countries, they should, again, this is something we are keeping saying that they should reunite, and they force their own bloc, and also they should use the veto power which the Arab and Muslim countries have. So without that, these things will keep deteriorating. The killing and the massacre of the civilians in Palestine will keep on going.
Right. Dr. Mr. Al-Hamid, when we talk about the US presidential elections, which are pretty much around the corner, do you see any sort of improvement in the situation after a new administration?
Not really, brother. As an expert and observer for the last more than 3 decades, the election, American election, is more focused on the internal issues, as you and your colleagues and those who have a knowledge on the international geopolitics. The American election is focused on local issues. However, there is a certain, focus on international issues. But again, the more you support the international Zionism, the more likely you will be elected, either the Democrat or the Republican. They will be more likely be supported by the Jews who are running the election, and they are running the international affairs of this universal.
Point well taken. Mr. Faheem Al-Hamid, Arab journalist, joining us on the phone line. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Khan, please go ahead. You want to make a point, please.
Jawad, you have actually been, emphasizing on, ceasefire and the importance of BRICS at this very important time. But we must not read too much into BRICS. One, because BRICS is one, it is meant for economic development of the countries. Number two, BRICS was basically, this summit was, convened to showcase the power of the Russian Federation, where the International Criminal Court had declared Mr. Putin,
arrest warrants for
for him. So he has shown that it is not only the West which enjoys clout with important capitals in the world, Russia also does that. And that is where the silver lining for the situation is there.
But this situation in the Middle East, specifically vis-a-vis Gaza, has been discussed at the BRICS summit.
Yeah, it has been discussed, but they have just said that, I was just going through the statement that has been issued after the BRICS summit, and they have said that yes, if the conflict is not confined at this stage, it is going to expand and engulf the whole area. What I'm trying to say is that, with the confidence which Mr. Putin now has after the BRICS, that is where the silver lining is.
Right.
Russia China and other countries like UAE, which has a lot of clout with Americans, and UAE and Israel, they should be the ones who should now be taking up the Palestinian cause at the United Nations. And maybe if they are somehow or the other able to convince the Americans and the British not to veto a resolution that forces Israel to stop its war, then I think something is going to happen. And that can happen if Russians and Chinese join hands with the other important members of the United Nations and force Americans and the Britishers to do it.
Point well taken. One quick last short sentence. Yes or no, do you see a reform at the United Nations Security Council in foreseeable future?
If the foreseeable future is 1 or 2 years, no. But if the foreseeable future is 3 to 4 years, I do see, because like you said, the world opinion is now changing. They are finding even United Nations to be a body which cannot do anything for world peace and for the countries that are not strong enough.
Mr. Air Marshal Retired Saeed Mohammed Khan, Senior Analyst, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. I'll have to wrap up the show. Unfortunately, we're short of time. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.